Welcome. In this video, I'll introduce 4 models for conflict de-escalation and resolution, and then each model also has its own video to describe it in detail, and in this video, I will describe model number 4, the timeout, and I'll describe that in this video in detail. I'm Dr. Lynette Wiest, and you're watching Wisdom's Peaceful Harmony. So model number 1 can be called blowing off steam, or it's not about you. This model is useful when you're upset about someone or something other than the person that you're talking with. This is for when you need to vent and you just want the other person to listen. Model number 2 is confrontation, or it involves you. This model is useful when the other person is the target of your anger or your frustration and you do not feel a need to problem solve at the time. The goal of this model is to be heard and to hear, but the goal of this model is not to problem solve. If it does involve the other person and you do want to problem solve, then you would use model number 3, which is called problem solving, or let's negotiate for change. And that model is useful when attempted solutions have been unsuccessful, and continuing to use those ineffective solutions can become a large part of then escalating the problem and creating other problems. So while it's important to clearly define the problem, it is also really important to understand each person's perspective and to understand what each person has been attempting to do that has been unsuccessful so far. And then model number 4 is the timeout, and that's the model that I'm going to talk about in this video in detail. The timeout model has 3 primary steps, and those I'll describe in a minute in detail, but realize this model is for times when communication is out of control. The words may have become unproductive, feelings may have escalated, and goals might be unclear at this point. And if intentions have shifted from problem solving to attacking or blaming or defending, you want to use a timeout. So a timeout, it provides an opportunity for both parties to calm down and then to return to the problem solving. Now, while a timeout is used to reduce overly stressed communications, the timeout is not intended to avoid the communication. So there are 3 steps in this model. The first step is the stop message. The second step is the agreement. And then the third step is resuming communication. So in step 1, the stop message, you want to say something along the lines of, I need a timeout now. And then if it's appropriate, you could add something like, this relationship is important to me. And continuing to communicate in this way is not good for our relationship. I don't want to cause further escalation by staying in this heated exchange. Here you're explaining that you're not avoiding or leaving the issue, but that you want to pause in order to use productive communication. You might combine that with a sentence of explanation along the lines of something like, I feel the communication is not productive now, or right now I feel hurt and I hear us fighting rather than cooperating, or I need a break, or I'm confused. Now, use iMessages to take responsibility for at least a part of the communication breakdown. And you can watch the iMessages video to learn about the skills required in using iMessages. Now, step 2 is the agreement. Here, both of you agree to stop the discussion and then to resume it at a later time. Agree on a time to check in with each other about the state of each of your emotions and about whether each party is ready to resume the discussion. And typically the timeout is at least 20 minutes, but if needed, it can be several hours. You do want to, if possible, resume the discussion within 24 hours. Now, step 3 is resuming the communication. You want to check in with each other at a specified time to know whether it's time to resume the communication. And you want to be sure that if either person is not ready, that then you again set a time the next time to check in. Now, being ready means that your adrenaline is not pumping, and that your focus is clear, and that your emotions are not going to interrupt your ability to speak clearly or to listen with an open mind. Now, you repeat this step as many times as is necessary until you are both ready to resume the conflict resolution in a healthy emotional state. Then you want to use one of the other 3 models to continue resolving the conflicted issue, and you can refer to those videos for use of those. Now, be familiar with the appropriate model to use and the steps to take for each model, and the steps are spelled out in the videos about each model. Ideally, both people in the relationship learn and practice these models prior to implementing them during a conflict, but it's not always possible to learn the models with another person. Even so, if that's the case, it still can be difficult to use them because if the other person is not familiar with them, they may not quite know how to cooperate. However, still, always implement them as the best in the best way that you can. And remember, as your life is unfolding, you want it to embrace all your love through your words from your heart. Let your life lift and empower all the opportunities for love that you encounter in each of your relationships. If you'd like to see more of these videos about relationships, about communication skills, and about love's power, it is free to subscribe. Welcome.